All right, guys. So this was the one slide we didn't get a chance to do, and it had to do with our rounding rules. So your rounding rules state to number one, identify the place value from the problem. So what place value are they telling you to do? Now, as we go to that, if you look at what we have up here, okay, we have the thousands, the ones, and then the decimals. Chances are many times they're going to be asking you to round to a decimal. So we have tenths, hundredths, thousands. Now the other thing it may say is to the nearest whole number. If it does whole number, then you're going to go to the ones position. All right, but that's your decimal right there. All right, so that's what we're looking at. So we want to identify what it's saying. So here in our first problem, it says round to the nearest tenth. All right, it's asking us to round to the nearest tenth. So tenths, I can see, is right here. That's the first number that's after the decimal. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So number two then says underline the number in that place value. Okay, underline the number that's in that place value. So I'm going to go in, and here's the decimal, and so the number that's in that place value is that 7 right there. Okay, so that's step 2, is to underline that one right there. Okay, then it says look at the number immediately to the right. So the number immediately to the right of that, if I go to the right, that's a 3. Okay, if that number is 4 or less, well, 3 is 4 or less, then leave the underlined number and drop all numbers to the right. So I'm going to leave that underlined number. Okay, if you give me a second, I'm going to get that right here. All right, so I'm going to leave the underlined number. So I did leave 4.7, and then I just drop all the other numbers that are to the right of that. Okay, I drop all the other numbers that are to the right of that. So that one would be 4.7 is where that would go. All right, so that would be the first one. All right, the second one, same thing. Okay, identify the place value, which we're still working to the 10th, and we're going to underline that one. Okay, we're going to underline that one. So I'm going to underline the tenths is right after the decimal. So here's the decimal. So the number that's immediately after it there is 8. Okay, so 8's the one I've got. Now, look at that number immediately to the right. To the right is the 6. Okay, to the right is the 6. So 4 or less, that's not it. 5 or more. 6 is 5 or more. So I'm going to add 1 to the underlined number. So the 8 is what's underlined. I'm going to add 1 to that one, and only that one. And I'm going to drop all the rest of these numbers. So my answer here, if I can get it to work, okay, is that would be the 298 that comes before the decimal. That just stays. And then that 8, because it followed by a 6, is going to become a 9. Okay, that 8, because it's followed by a 6, is going to become a 9. All right, so that's what we're looking at from there. All right, okay, so that's how you do these. Okay, so let's look at another one. This next set says round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, hundredth. So tenths, hundredths. That's, notice here's the decimal right here. So 1, 2 numbers after the decimal. Okay, so I'm going to round to the 2 numbers. I'm going to keep 2 numbers after the decimal. So underline the number that's in that place value. So here's the decimal right here. So 1, 2. So the 8 is what's in the hundredths position. Okay, I look at the number immediately following it, which is a 2. 2 is 4 or less, so I'm going to leave the 8 alone, and I'm just going to drop the rest of those numbers. So I do 49.08. I drop that 2 and 3, and that would be my answer, 49.08. Okay, last one. Same thing. I'm still looking for the nearest hundredth. So decimal point, tenths, hundredths, that's the 5 this time. Okay, that's the 5 this time. And so I'm looking at the 5. The number immediately after it is a 9. Okay, number immediately after it is a 9. That is 5 or more. So I'm going to add 1 to the number that's underlined, which is going to make that a 6. And then I'll drop all the other stuff that's past it. Now again, the part that's in front of it, okay, the part that's in front of it though, I'm going to put, okay, 0, whoops, 0.7, but this time the 5 was followed by a 9, so I'm going to make it 0.76. So this would be what you have for rounding rules, okay? So you can finish out your notes with that and make sure you have it.